If you're a freelancer, a creator, or anyone who works for themselves, you've been told the answer to all your problems is more discipline. Well, I'm here to tell you that's probably terrible advice. Because your iron will might just be high-functioning anxiety wearing a trench coat and a fedora, pretending it knows what it's doing. And that little guy is the reason you're one passive-aggressive client email away from deleting all your accounts and moving to a remote cabin to raise goats. So today, we're going to unmask this little imposter and talk about what real, sustainable productivity actually looks like. And spoiler, it involves a lot less guilt-fueled coffee. Okay, so let's call this character Anxiety in a Trench Coat. Its main job is to convince you that the only way to be safe and successful is to be working, constantly. It tells you that every second you're not creating, posting, or replying to emails is a second you're failing. Sound familiar? This is the voice of toxic productivity. It's the feeling that you have to earn your rest. It's checking your email at dinner. It's that pit in your stomach when you see someone else post a win on social media, not because you're jealous, but because you feel like you're falling behind. This isn't discipline. Discipline is a tool you use. Toxic productivity is a state of being that uses you. And the data on this is, well, it's not great. A 2026 study found that up to 90% of content creators experience burnout. That's almost double the rate of traditional jobs. We're not talking about just feeling a little tired. We're talking about a level of exhaustion that, according to another report, leads to a 30 to 50% drop in productivity. Serious, so the very thing your anxiety is telling you to do to be more productive, work harder, longer, without breaks, is literally making you worse at your job. Your anxiety is a terrible project manager. It's like a smoke detector that goes off every time you make toast. It means well, but its methods are flawed. So why do we fall for it? Because hustle culture has sold us a lie, that your self-worth is tied to your output. We see gurus online waking up at 4 a.m. to drink green sludge and crush the day, and we think that's the only path to success. We've been conditioned to believe that feeling constantly stressed is the price of admission for being a self-employed creative. But here's the secret they don't tell you. That feeling of being on all the time isn't a feature, it's a bug. It keeps your nervous system in a constant state of fight or flight. Your body doesn't know the difference between a deadline and a saber-toothed tiger. To your nervous system, that little red notification bubble is a genuine threat. And you can't do good creative work from a state of panic. Creativity, problem-solving, and focus all come from the part of your brain that basically shuts down when you're stressed. So when you push through the exhaustion, you're not being disciplined. You're just flooring the gas pedal with an empty tank. You'll make a lot of noise, but you won't get very far. This brings us to the big perspective shift. The opposite of toxic, anxiety-driven productivity isn't laziness. It's sustainable performance. It's about regulating your nervous system so you can actually access your best work. Think of it like an athlete. An Olympian doesn't train 24/7. Their recovery is just as important as their training. Rest is part of the work. So let's bust a few of these anxiety-driven myths. First up, you must wake up at 5 a.m. to be successful. Look, if you're a natural morning person, great. But for many of us, our brains don't actually hit peak performance until later in the day. Forcing yourself into a schedule that fights your natural circadian rhythm isn't discipline, it's just self-sabotage with extra steps. Myth number 2, your to-do list is a sacred document and every single item must be completed. This is a classic anxiety trap. It makes you feel busy, but not necessarily effective. The reality is the 80-20 rule. 20% of your tasks will likely generate 80% of your results. Your job isn't to clear the list, it's to identify and execute that critical 20%. Sarcastic and the third, most dangerous myth. Breaks are a sign of weakness. This is anxiety in a trench coat's favorite line. It's what keeps you chained to your desk, eating a sad salad while scrolling through emails. But as we've seen, your brain literally needs downtime to function. A 2026 trend is nature microdosing. Even 40 seconds of looking at green space can improve focus. 40 seconds. So how do we fire our anxiety as a project manager and hire someone competent? It starts with tiny, manageable shifts. This isn't about a massive life overhaul. It's about introducing small acts of nervous system regulation. You're not trying to kill the anxiety, you're just trying to take away its car keys. Okay, here are 3 things you can do this week. First, learn the cyclic sigh. It's a breathing pattern proven to reduce anxiety in under 5 minutes. You take a deep breath in through your nose, then take another little sip of air at the top, and then a long, slow exhale through your mouth. Do it 3 times. That's it. You've just hit the manual reset button on your stress response. Second, schedule nothing into your calendar. I'm serious. A 15-minute block where your only goal is to not have a goal. You can stare at a wall, listen to a song, whatever. The point is to teach your brain that it's safe to be still. At first, it will feel incredibly uncomfortable. That's the anxiety protesting. Let it protest. You're the boss now. And third, practice strategic subtraction. Look at your to-do list for the week and ask, what's one thing I can just not do, not delegate, not postpone, delete? Maybe it's that one should task that has no real ROI. Maybe it's deciding not to post on a certain platform this week. Removing a task is often more powerful than adding a new productivity hack. Look, untangling your worth from your work is a long process, and it's not easy. But recognizing that the discipline you've been chasing is actually just anxiety in disguise is the most important first step. True discipline is choosing to rest, setting boundaries, and treating yourself like a human you're responsible for keeping alive and well, because you are. This is how you build a career that lasts, instead of just burning brightly for a few years before you burn out completely. If this resonated, you're not alone. And if setting those boundaries feels impossible, especially with clients, that's what we're tackling next. Thanks for being here.